Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Putale Simate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Itti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Radha Nama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Hani Putarana Visesha Samyavani Pushpati Devi Jana Kamilanda Syadana Jana Sulaka Chaksa Samilitan Jana Jana Sri Guru Vema Sri Caitanya Manavistam Stapitam Jana Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapanantikam Mansakopa Tubhyascha Kripa Sindhuve Bhaja Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. Hare Krishna, good morning. Prasmahan, you okay? Did you get any gardenias for the Supreme Personality of Godhead today? Okay. The verse we spoke about last week was Eka Eka Vraja Vasi Eka Eka Gavi Dila, how each and every Brijvasi gave a cow to Gopal. Sahasra Sahasra Gavi Gopal Era Haila. So therefore Gopal had thousands and thousands and thousands of cows. And no one was inconvenienced by that, in the sense that everyone contributed, and therefore, as the saying goes, many hands make light work. That when everyone contributes, then everything becomes much easier. But moving on, and Prabhupada gave a very interesting purport about how Krishna consciousness could spread and everyone could be benefited, etc. Almost in a varnashrama type of way. Continuing. Eventually, 2 brahmanas in the renounced order arrived from Bengal, and Madhavendra Puri, who liked them very much, kept them in Vrindavan and gave them all kinds of comforts. Isn't that just in and of itself, that verse is so interesting. He liked them very much. And he was such an exalted Vaishnava. So he liked them. Why would he like them? Would that mean that he liked them and didn't like others? No, he was in a level much more exalted than just I like and I don't like and friends and enemies. But he liked their very, very fine qualities. And therefore, that's such an interesting term, the way Prabhupada said it, he kept them. So, what do you get from that term? What do you keep? You keep things you like, but what else is hidden in there?
You protect them.
He protected them, yeah, by keeping them, he protected them.
You need them.
Huh? Go
You own them.
You own them. Yeah, so that's, from our point of view, that sounds on one level quite odd. He kept them as if they were his property. You keep what's your property. But in the Vaishnava culture, that's the greatest benediction. To be kept by a Vaishnava as if one was one's own. The person was belonged. The relationship is so strong, and therefore things that come out as very interesting from the Vaishnava culture as it moves all around the world is like when someone gets chastised. In Natya Leela, there's a one pastime where Jagannananda Pandit, he advises something to Sanatana Goswami, and Mahaprabhu ends up chastising Jagannananda Pandit. And Sanatana Goswami's response was, "But you didn't chastise me. That means he's more dear to you than I am." And Mahaprabhu had to say, no, it's not like that. But it's a completely different consciousness that because what's the thing that people don't want in that Vaishnava consciousness and culture? The thing that they don't want is nirapeksha, or neutrality, or I don't care. I don't care. So why would you chastise someone if you're in the right consciousness? And the right consciousness is that you have affection for the person, and when it comes time to offer someone some correction, that's the first thing that the person who's doing the correcting has to examine within himself, and that thing is that whether it's coming from the right place in his own consciousness, whether there's affection there, whether it's based on affection or anger or envy or whatever. So when it's based on affection, then the chastisement will have one effect, and if it's based on enmity, then it will have just the opposite effect, a wrong effect. Such a nice kirtan. So when you're kept, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur even says, Ami to kukur, he says, "Oh Vaishnava, please make me your dog." It means I'm your property and I'll do my duty, I'll bark when there's an intruder. I'll keep them away. So it's such a different mood than its contemporary. And when you look at what the word dasa means, actually, it means, we translate it as what? But what is the actual meaning? It's more slave. So that would be, it's very politically incorrect, but that is considered to be a very high position in the Vaishnava mood, is to be, I'm yours. You can do as you like with me. That's called Sharanagati, which is the doorway to love. So it takes adjustment of consciousness, of conceptual reorientation to accept this. And Prabhupada used to give the example of if there's, and especially you can see this in one of what the dogs look like in Australia, how proud they are and how well kept they are and chubby and everything, and we have experience of the street dogs in India, and when no one's taking care of them, they don't have a master, and they're pretty scruffy and scrawny. So to become the trusted property of a Vaishnava is very special. When I say trusted, I mean to say that he can rely on that in the relationship. It's very special. So eventually 2 Brahmins and the renounced daughter arrived from Bengal. A Madhavendra Puri who liked them very much because they were so qualified, and he kept them in Vrindavan. You stay here, and look what he gave them. He gave them all kinds of comforts. He made it easier for them. And then what did he do? They were initiated by Madhavendra Puri, and he entrusted them with the daily service of the Lord. He engaged them in his intimate relationship with Gopal. And this was the greatest gift he could give them. They had proper qualities. He liked them, he kept them, and he gave them a service that was very dear to him in his relationship with Gopal. You can serve Gopal as I was just serving Gopal, who just came to me in a dream, and now you please serve him. What an honor. What a wonderful thing to have service. And I've seen this with devotees who have left the ISKCON movement, some dear friends, and I've asked them, what do you miss most? And they say, the service. Because without service, what do we have in life? We have mastership only, and it's not fun making believe you're the master. It's not fun because there's no pleasure in it. There's anticipation of pleasure. And that's specifically what Maya gives us, the anticipation of pleasure that we can, of enjoying those things of the material energy and exerting our independence in that way. So, he entrusted, such a nice word, samarpila. He entrusted them with the service. So within the word entrusted is the word trust. I trust you that you can do this service. You can take care of Gopal. I won't be able to take care of him, but you please, I'm entrusting you, his service to you. This service was performed continuously, and the worship of the deity became very gorgeous. Thus Madhavendra Puri was very pleased. Ananda Badila, he was very pleased. His pleasure was the service of Gopal. In material life, if someone was writing a book about a materialist, they would say they were serving him continuously and in a very gorgeous way. Thus, he became very pleased that they're serving me in a gorgeous way continuously, and I trusted them to serve me, and therefore I am very pleased. But Madhavendra Puri was so detached from material pleasure. And the only way one can really become detached from material pleasure is to be very attached in tasting the sweetness of spiritual pleasure. Otherwise, there's a saying in amongst those who are drunkards. There's a saying about someone being a dry drunk. And that means a person who was a drinker and he's given up drinking, but he hasn't given up the desire for drinking. So he's a drunk inside, but he's dry. He's not drinking. So that's an awkward position to be in. So it behooves us dry drunks to really go deeply into that which will give us pleasure in Krishna consciousness. So Madhavendra Puri was very pleased. Here is Srila Prabhupada's purport. Excuse me. The 6 Goswamis and their followers started many temples, such as the temples of Govinda, Gopinath, Madan Mohan, Radha Damodar, Shyamasundar, Radharaman, and Gokulananda. The disciples of the Goswamis were entrusted with the Seva Puja, the deity worship of these temples. It was not that the disciples were family members of the original Goswamis. All the Goswamis were in the renounced order of life, and Jiva Goswami in particular was a lifelong brahmachari. At present, Sevites, those who are worshipping the deities in these temples, assume the title of Goswami on the basis of their being engaged as Sevitas of the deities. The Sevites, who have inherited their position, now assume proprietorship of the temples, and some of them are selling the deities' property as if it was their own. So this was very, very prominent. However, the temples did not originally belong to these Sevites. So if you go to Vrindavan, there are different bazaars in Vrindavan. One of them is Gopinath's Bazaar, and then there's Loy Bazaar, and there's so many other bazaars where there are markets. And it's called Gopinath Bazaar, for example, because the whole bazaar belonged to Gopinath and all the deity Gopinath. I can't remember who Loy Bazaar belonged to. Radha Govinda. There's a voice in the sky.
Very auspicious.
Yeah. Kamsa, you're such a fool. Yes, so it's all been sold. It's all been sold. Not all, but been largely all the land is sold by the Sevites who are supposed to be caring for the property of the deity. What is not proprietor, but steward. Steward, right? Steward means one who cares for the conservatorship. You're caring for the property of another. But to think that when you're caring for the property of the other, that it becomes yours, so then it's problematic. Yes, continuing. In this way, the deity worship in the temple was very gorgeously performed for 2 years. Then, one day, Madhavendra Puri had a dream. Gopal Kai. Gopal said, Madhavendra Puri in his dream, he saw Gopal, who said, my bodily temperature still has not decreased. Please bring sandalwood from the Malaya province and smear the pulp over my body to cool me. So we talk about trusted servants. Gopal had said previously in a dream to Madhavendra Puri, of course Gopal had personally come, the Gopal deity, Krishna, had personally come to feed Madhavendra Puri. He said, in my village no one fasts. And that's such a wonderful way to look at your food that you eat every day, that we eat every day. So therefore we say a prayer before we eat our food. Sarira Vidyajal. Krishna is so kind to give us this prasadam. That to consider that Krishna is giving me this food, and it's His mercy. Prasad means mercy. Such a grateful way to keep the heart open towards Krishna, because if there was no sunlight, which we don't provide, if there was no water, which we can't create, and if there was no magic in the seed, that you put the seed in the ground and you add water, it's instant life almost. Just add water. How does that happen? Is the life in the water? Is it in the seed? Is it in the combination? But who made that combination in such a way? And not only that, then you plant one seed and a rose comes, and it has one fragrance, and you plant another seed and a gardenia comes and it has a completely different fragrance, and all you're doing is adding water, which has no fragrance. So there's magic at work. And then you add another seed and you get a cucumber, of all things, or Karela. All these tastes are coming and fragrances are coming from the earth. It's quite miraculous. So to think that Krishna is kindly doing this and giving us this, and it's not happening by my power, and that's what Maya does in one sense. It disconnects us. Specifically, that's the function of Maya. It disconnects us from connecting everything in existence to Krishna. Yes, so Madhavendra Puri, this entrusted servant, was given another service. First, he was given the service to find the deity of Gopal and establish him in the service. So he did that, and he stayed there for 2 years. And then he got another service, another order, and that was Gopal. Who do you go to when if you're feeling very warm, or you have a personal, private discomfort? You have itchiness somewhere. You don't just go tell everyone or announce it on your internet forum. But you tell someone who you trust, who can help you. But it would be a trusted person. So Madhavendra Puri was given this another trusted service. Purport. Prabhupada's purport. The deity of Gopal had been buried within the jungle for many years, and although he was installed and was offered thousands of pots of water, he still felt very hot. He therefore asked Madhavendra Puri to bring sandalwood from the Malaya province. And then Prabhupada speaks about sandalwood from the Nilagiri Hills, sometimes called the Malaya Hills. Do you know anyone know where the Malaya Hills are? Where? Of course, where else would it be? Are they big and famous? And do they have sandalwood to this day on trees?
I'm not very sure about that.
There's an assignment for you. But probably if they had been there, they've been cut down and sold. But Tamil Nadu Kerala was more famous for sandalwood oil in the old days. Mysore, yes, Mysore. So Prabhupada talks about that, and he ends the Prabhupada by saying, although the Vedic culture was once prevalent in Malaysia, now all the inhabitants are Muslim. The Vedic culture is now lost in Malaysia, Java, and Indonesia. And there's what's the name, in Cambodia? There's a famous, huge temple area, cities called Angkor Wat. That was all. Have you been there yet, Brother Mohan?
No.
What? Ango what? What? You should definitely complain on the internet.
We almost went one year.
Almost been there.
It's almost been there. Well, what does it almost look like? But it's supposed to be incredible. Have you seen anything about it? Have you ever heard of it? Oh, I guess you've heard of it. And Prabhupada says in this purport also, formerly Malaysia also produced sandalwood, but now they have found it profitable to produce rubber trees. And they brought all the workers, the British did this, and then they brought all the workers from Tamil Nadu, and therefore so many of the that's the largest denomination of not denomination, but the largest group of Indian people in Malaysia are from Tamil Nadu, and most of the devotees are from Tamil Nadu in Malaysia. And they were mostly previously from families that were brought by the British to do work on the rubber plantations. So before leaving, after having this dream, Madhavendra Puri Goswami became very, what do you think the next word is without looking? Before leaving, he became? Happy, yeah. That was ecstatic, blissful. He became very glad, but all the combination of what you all said, glad due to ecstasy of love of God, so that the fact that Gopal had come to him to ask him to do some more service for him, entrusted him again to do some service, was an udipan, a stimulant of his love for Krishna, which was always blossoming. But it blossomed still further because the intimacy of the relationship was awakened again. Not awakened again, but it was stimulated. And in order to execute the command of the Lord, he started east towards Bengal. Very quickly, we could presume, if not immediately. Before leaving, here's why it wouldn't be immediately. Before leaving, Madhavendra Puri made all arrangements for regular deity worship, and he engaged different people in various duties. Then, taking up the order of Gopal, he started for Bengal. So what do you get from that? Yes?
Even though he was leaving, he was very careful to take care of, to make sure that the deity is being taken care of.
So what's that called when you're careful in that way?
Responsible.
Yeah, responsible. So even though he had a next service to do, he dealt with his current situation in a very responsible way to make sure that things would go on properly. When Madhavendra Puri arrived, so he started for Bengal. So he began his journey towards Bengal, because after going to Bengal, he would go south to Puri, Jagannath Puri. When Madhavendra Puri arrived at the house of Advaita Acharya in Shantipur, the Acharya became very pleased upon seeing the ecstatic love of Godhead manifest in Madhavendra Puri. Advaita Acharya begged to be initiated by Madhavendra Puri. After initiating him, Madhavendra Puri started for South India. There's quite a long purport by Srila Prabhupada where he's mostly citing Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur And Prabhupada wants to make a point that I'll read the beginning and that'll become clear. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments on Advaitacharya's initiation by Madhavendra Puri, who was a sannyasi in the disciplic succession of the Madhva Sampradaya. According to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi means sannyasi, Sudra Kene Noy, Ye Krishna Tattva Veta say Guru Hai. A person may be a brahmana, a sannyasi, a sudra, or whatever, but if he is well conversant in the science of Krishna, he can become a guru. This statement is supported by Madhavendra Puri. According to the Pancharatra injunctions, only a householder brahmana can initiate, others cannot. When a person is initiated, it is assumed that he has become a brahmana. Without being initiated by a proper brahmana, one cannot be converted into a brahmana. So Prabhupada's purport speaks about very much the who can initiate and who can't initiate, and it concludes in this way. And he explains the problem with it being strictly followed in a rigid way without understanding the purpose for the principle. So he ends the purport by saying, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu indicated that it does not matter whether the spiritual master is a grihasta householder, a sannyasi, or even a sudra. A spiritual master simply must be conversant in the essence of the Shastra. He must understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the essence. This is the purpose of Shastra. This is the purpose, and Shastra's purpose is to guide our life. To guide our life in such a way that we get the advantage that a human life offers. And that advantage is the capacity, the ability, to the intelligence, the facility to develop love for Krishna. And that's the goal. Prema Parama Artha Mahan. So, I was just thinking of one facility that a human being has that an animal doesn't have, but or I was thinking of a bird, is that a bird has to continuously eat because the length of their intestines is very short. But a human being, as it says in the Bhagavatam, it stores his food in the stomach. So that means he doesn't have to eat continuously all day long, even though some of us do eat continuously all day long. But it doesn't have to. Rather that we can use our time for other things than searching for food. A spiritual master must be conversant in the essence of the Shastra. He must understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only then can one become a spiritual master. Diksha actually means initiating a disciple with transcendental knowledge, by which he becomes freed from all material contamination. That's an indirect quotation of Jiva Goswami from Bhakti Sandarbha. That initiation means giving of transcendental knowledge. That's what Diksha means. So going into South India, so he went from North India, Mathura, Vrindavan, Govardhan, then he went to Bengal, and in Bengal he stopped at Shantipur. And there's also another reference to this in Caitanya Caritamrta, Madhavendra Puri's visit, when he was with Paramananda Puri, when he met Paramananda Puri, I believe, when he, after leaving Srirangam, he met Paramananda Puri, who was his Guru Maharaj's godbrother, Sripad Ishwar Puri's godbrother. And he remembered, and it sounded, no, I think I have the story wrong. No, but he was with Madhavendra Puri when Madhavendra Puri visited Bengal at this time. And when he stopped in Mayapur, and he was remembering eating prasadam at the house of Jagannath Misra, and that chaste Mother Sachi had cooked the best shak vegetable, that it was like nectar. So just imagine what that must have tasted like, that 20 years later or 30 years later or whatever it was, he was remembering the taste. So very special. So going into South India, Madhavancha Puri visited Ramuna, where Gopinath is situated. Now we're really entering the next part of this pastime. Upon seeing the beauty of the deity, Madhavancha Puri was overwhelmed. Now, think of what that means. Vivilaman. Vivila means it's a state of mind where you become overwhelmed and bewildered. Some occurrence happens and your mind becomes so, in this case, so overwhelmed by what? By Gopinath's beauty. He was overwhelmed. Now, consider this point, that Krishna is unlimitedly beautiful, and Krishna is his deity form. So when he saw the deity of Gopinath, just seeing him put him in contact with unlimited beauty. And his consciousness became so bewildered by that beauty. He was overwhelmed by that beauty. So, what is it? What is unlimited beauty? How could a finite mind with finite material concepts conceive of of something unlimited, infinite? We cannot. So I think I've mentioned this before. So if we think of something beautiful or someone beautiful, and that person has a limited amount of beauty, but is unlimited beauty 10 times more beautiful, or 50 times more beautiful, or 100 times more beautiful, or 1,000 times more beautiful, or 1,000,000 times more beautiful? It's not like that at all. So unlimited beauty is not possible for the material mind, which has limited concepts, to conceive of. So how can one actually experience unlimited beauty? And Krishna, as we know, has not only unlimited beauty, what other unlimited qualities? Name one, Brajmohan.
Knowledge.
Unlimited knowledge. That means that there's no limit to what he knows. Give me an example of something that he knows that we wouldn't usually think of. I'll leave that for you to figure out. Or what's something that you would, like Krishna knows, but you don't, but you have no way of knowing it, for example?
Like he would know everything you do.
He knows and not only what you do, but at the same time, he knows what everyone is doing. And he knows why they're doing it. It sounds a bit like like what the governments of the world are trying to accomplish by their chips and computers nowadays, and surveillances. But yeah, he knows what everyone. What's another example of something that he could know?
Past, present, and future.
Past, present, and future. And what else?
himself?
That's an interesting philosophical question. If he's unlimitedly expanding, as soon as he knows himself, he doesn't know himself because he's increasing. So how do you deal with something like that? You can't even conceive of what he knows. We can't conceive of what his consciousness is like, basically. And he knows and doesn't know at the same time. There's things like when Mother Yashoda is chastising him for stealing butter, and he's crying. Does he know he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And the answer is no. But it's not that he doesn't know, but it's not that he knows, because he wouldn't be crying if he knows that if he knows. But and that would ruin all the sweetness of the pastime for him. So my answer to that is that we can't, with our finite consciousness, understand what his consciousness is like. Yeah. What's another example? What's something that the scientists tried to know, but they can't know?
Where life comes from?
Where life comes from, or how you put a soul into a body, and the body digests food. Scientists don't know how food digestion works, and they just don't know it. And if you get an artificial heart, how is it run? Does anyone know? Do you know, Doctor?
You're talking about a mechanical one?
Yeah, mechanical one.
Battery power.
The actual batteries. And that explains how our hearts work anyway. Solar energy. Batteries, an actual, like a AA battery or something like that.
I think a different type.
But it's implanted in the body? No.
I'm a little sketchy on the details, but I think just under the skin.
And that means every time they have to change the battery, maybe they use a zipper or something. Do you know, Gopal? No.
Maybe there's the recharger you can sometimes lay your phone on. Lay it out.
Recharge your battery. So Krishna is much more expert and subtle, it appears. Do they work, those hearts, do you know? I mean,
not so well.
Not so well. Yeah, just the simplest things or how the body heals itself when it's so amazing. If you get a cut or something like that and the body heals itself, it's astounding. A self-healing machine, and yet it's a machine, yantra. So upon seeing the beauty of the deity, Madhavendra Puri was overwhelmed. So the point that I wanted to make was that, and we take an example of, say, the body heals now itself. Now, when you hear that the body heals itself, are you amazed? I mean, I'm not really amazed, because that's what bodies do. It heals itself. But if you're a doctor, and if you actually study the mechanisms of how, if you have that kind of knowledge, then you become more and more amazed at the intricacies of the process. So it takes a specific consciousness to appreciate something on a deep level, what to speak of being overwhelmed by it. So what is the consciousness that Madhavendra Puri has that becomes overwhelmed when he sees the beauty of Gopinath? Because I haven't seen that Gopinath, but I've seen, I remember walking into see Radha Ballava in Melbourne, and then mechanically looking, mechanically folding my hands, mechanically offering my obeisances, mechanically walking out, and not having any idea what color the cloth they were wearing was or anything like that. Or to make it even a more telling example, that Haridas Thakur was, and the other devotees become so overwhelmed just by touching Krishna in the form of the holy names, overwhelmed that they can't do anything, laughing, dancing, not caring for outsiders. So what is the consciousness that's required to actually be so in touch with Krishna that one becomes overwhelmed by the experience, because the opportunities are there, because the deity is there, the holy names are there, but something is missing, and the part that's missing isn't in Krishna. That's the point. And Madhavendra Puri, upon seeing Gopal, was overwhelmed. So he had that kind of love, that kind of bhakti, that allowed him to perceive the unlimited beauty of Gopinath and become overwhelmed by it. What do you think about that? How does that make you feel? It's good, yeah, but it's good that you waited for a moment. You paused and thought about it. I asked you, how did it make you feel? So ask yourself, I won't ask you, but ask yourself, how does that make you feel? It's humbling. Sometimes that kind of a statement could fill us with doubts. Is it really true? Great devotees had said, yes, it is true. And they've done impossible things. And yeah, so now he's in front of Madhavendra Puripad, is in front of Gopinath. And how is he going to deal with Gopinath? And how is Gopinath going to deal with him? Such a great devotee who Gopal deity came to him, and Gopal had said that I've been observing you. And one thing to understand is Gopal is no different from Gopinath, which is going to come out at the end of the pastime. Krishna is Krishna. Different forms, different moods, but Krishna. Okay, we'll stop here. Any questions or comments? No questions, Brajmohan?
No. And I was thinking that it was interesting how, like, the more that you learn about Krishna, like instead of like learning more and then, okay, now I know it, then the more you know, then the more amazed you are, and the more you realize that there's so much more.
And there's no end. It's just a matter of our capacity to either go deep or high, depending upon the metaphor you're using. Any other questions or comments? So the implication of that is if we get bored, and sometimes we do get bored, that's Krishna from within suggesting that we have to go a bit deeper or higher, depending upon, again, which way you're looking at it. Any other questions or comments? Yes, exactly.
You mentioned that once, in Melbourne, you went to the deity.
Not once. Unfortunately, if it was only once, it would.
I often realize that go to the temple, fall down, do the whole mechanical thing.
Yeah.
And although I'm conscious that it's been very mechanical,
Yeah.
just being conscious doesn't change.
Yeah.
That doesn't change the matter. So, any tips of how to?
Well, slow down. Because why? It's not like nothing is going on while we're not seeing the deity, while we're seeing the deity. What is going on? It's the mind is somewhere else. So it's to be physically in one place is one, physically doing something is one thing, but to have the physical and the mental in harmony with each other, focused on Krishna, is what we want, was our goal. So in my case, usually that means my mind is extremely distracted by something or another. So then if I can just slow down my mind a little bit and become aware of what's going on right now and where I am and what I'm supposed to be doing, and just slow down and look at the deities and just try to look at some of the details. What are they wearing? What his feet, lotus feet, look like? What kind of flowers are there? And just slowly, starting at the feet, just start noticing details. And that slows the mind down. And then you could focus. See, if we focus on something external, just like everyone just focus on what sounds you can hear now. So just by doing that, the mind slows down. By focusing, instead of letting the mind run anywhere. Just by focusing the mind, there's some happiness and peace just by doing that simple thing. And what did you hear? Just one thing.
Clock.
Clock, yeah. What else did you hear? I couldn't hear that. Oh, what else?
Wind chime.
The wind chimes.
A fly.
What is the sound of one fly? But just by focusing on one of the senses, the mind slows down, and you feel more happiness, actually, because the mind is more sattvic in that way. Because when the mind is running everywhere, it's rajasic, passionate, and passion brings distress always. So that's my suggestion. Just focus on your eyes and what you see when you're looking at the deity in detail. Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai. Srila Krishna Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Sri Madhavendra Prabhupada ki jai. Gopal Gopinatha ki jai. Nitya Gaur Premanande.